She'll say she knows what she wants now, that she's matured, that she's learned, that she's ready. But if Freud were by your side, he would recommend that you listen beyond the words, because those who need to assert so much are often trying to hide something. This woman in her early 30s no longer loves with complete abandon. She loves cautiously. She doesn't dive in. She observes, analyzes, compares. Her heart no longer beats for desire, it beats for protection. In her world, love became an equation. What they call empowerment today is often just the unresolved grief of that girl who still believed in love, but suffered for years with abandonment, frustrations, and unfulfilled promises. She survived, but not entirely unscathed. The woman you see today is the sheltered version of that wounded teenager, the one who learned through experience that love can hurt and desire can be painful. So now she's not just looking for love, she's looking for comfort. She's not entirely open to a relationship. She created a mask, a role she plays well, that of the mature, confident woman. But behind this performance, there is still the same lack that affected her when she was 20. Freud would call this reaction formation, when the unconscious creates a mask to hide true pain. She calls for independence, so as not to reveal that she still desires affection. He seeks stability, because he has lost confidence in love. It will ask for your strength, but it will test your patience in the face of its chaos. She'll want your presence, but she may pull away when you're too intense, because deep down she's learned to crave what she doesn't have and to run from what's safe. She wants to be chosen, but is afraid to show her vulnerability. Wants care, but is suspicious of those who offer it. She wants to be admired, but treats those who are dedicated to her with distance, and blame the world for all this. Freud would explain it as projection. She transfers her frustration with herself onto the man. Because facing the truth would be too difficult, she no longer knows what love is. She only knows how to demand that you love her, as if love were a solution. And when you try to truly love her, she reacts negatively. In her emotional universe, love and trauma mix together. If there is no suffering, she does not recognize it as genuine. And so, you end up paying for pain that isn't yours. She calls you a good man and smiles, but walks away soon after, and you're left wondering where you went wrong. But you didn't make a mistake. Left over, there was presence left, there was sincerity left. And that's exactly what she doesn't know how to deal with anymore. A man who is whole does not feed the cycle between pain and desire. It does not offer the emotional scarcity that generates attachment anxiety. That's where many men get lost, trying to please someone who, deep down, doesn't know how to receive. She got used to asking for affection, to trying to save people with her own wounds. You scare her completely because you don't put her in defense mode, and she mistakes this for a lack of passion. Freud would call this repetition compulsion. The unconscious returns, without realizing it, to the original scene of the trauma. What hurt she recognizes as familiar, what is stable, loving, and clear, she may reject as weak, predictable, or dull. She does not desire the man who welcomes her, desires the man who leaves and then comes back, the man who makes her feel alive. Precisely because of the doubt, will he love me or leave me? This unconscious suspense became the fuel of desire, and that's not her fault. It's trauma disguised as personal preference. The kind of man she's attracted to is actually a new version of the old abandonment, the one that never healed. Behind the 30-something woman who claims to know what she wants, there is still a 16-year-old girl, crying into the pillow, wondering why he didn't call. That girl didn't disappear. She just changed her appearance. She exchanged her short skirt for a blazer. Insecurity through sarcasm, crying for irony, but the emotional structure remains intact. She still asks for love, but she no longer knows how to receive it. Love comes and goes because she needed to protect herself to survive. Freud would call this repression. The pain was so strong that the unconscious hid it to avoid suffering. But the trauma returns between the lines, in sabotaged love choices, in the coldness for no apparent reason, in fear of loving someone who truly values her. And you, man who watches all this without understanding, need to stop trying to save her, because she doesn't want to be saved. She wants to be seen, and it's not just because of you. It's because of a symbolic figure who never recognized you, the father who didn't validate you. She doesn't seek love just to share her life. Want love to run away from her, escape from loneliness, from pain, from the emptiness that consumes you. When the lights go out, and when you offer a real date, she backs off, because what she really wants is emotional numbness. The 30-something woman you know today faces a dilemma between the discourse of independence and a lack that seems like a legitimate necessity. She says she is free, but she wants a man to always be there. He talks about freedom, but expects full attention. Freud would call this affective ambivalence, where desire goes hand in hand with fear. She wants to be loved, but is afraid to show herself completely, because opening up too much can make the trauma reappear. That's why she sometimes contradicts herself, calls for action but rejects leadership, wants care but sees control where there is none. You want intense sex, but you may feel guilty afterward. The conflict isn't in you, it's in her, trying to protect a very wounded part of herself. She doesn't just want to love, she wants to maintain control, and expects you to mistake that for passion. Wants to be admired without having to reciprocate. You want to be desired without giving up your protection. This is not love. It is a wounded vanity. When Freud spoke about the narcissism of small differences, he described this type of relationship, where conflict is created where none exists, just so the ego feels alive, even if it costs the other person their affection. She wants you to prove all the time that you are different from others, that he fights for her, that he wears himself out, that he makes an effort, because only then will she believe she is worth something. Her tiredness is the value she herself does not recognize. That's why she tests you. Provokes, pretend not to care. It's not a game of seduction. It's a fear of truly giving yourself over. If you love her too much, she will walk away. If you love too little, she begs. But not for love, but to ensure that she is still wanted. Freud would speak here of libidinal economy. Her psychic energy is all focused on avoiding pain. But this protection generates another kind of suffering, that of never being truly touched by anyone again. She lives surrounded, but untouchable. And you won't save her from that. You will wear yourself out trying to overcome invisible barriers. You will fall in love with a woman who no longer exists, because the real woman, the one who once knew how to feel, was buried by her own fear. The woman who charges so much doesn't know how to act when you return the mirror. She doesn't want to reflect herself. She wants to project. You want to transform your insecurities into a portrait of your mistakes. Freud would explain it like this: what one does not accept in oneself, one transfers to others. The emptier she feels, the more she will accuse you of absence. The more insecure you are, the more you will want to be called a goddess. For her, love became a performance. She's not looking for a relationship, she's looking for a stage. And you became the audience. Is there to support, praise, sustain, and deal with the drama without ever asking for anything in return. Because if you ask, it will be interpreted as something negative. This 30-something woman talks about partnership, but in practice, she expects someone who will support her internal crises, who will endure her chaos, and who will remain firm even when she is fragile. She says she wants a mature man, but in practice, you expect someone who will accept being emotionally used without question. She does not seek partnership, seeks emotional support. And you became the harbor for the instability she turned into romanticism. Freud would call this displacement. You end up paying for what others caused, due to the absence of the father, for abandoning past relationships, for the contempt of society, for frustrated expectations about herself. You become the repository of all this, and when she reacts, when she sets boundaries, she portrays herself as the victim. The game is reversed. You become the problem, the insensitive one. Why? Because I didn't want to be the emotional support she expected, the one who accepts everything, who doesn't judge, who loves even in the face of difficulties. She doesn't want a relationship with you, wants to be welcomed by you. You want external validation because internally the source has dried up. You become the last emotional hope, the unconscious attempt to transform the other into healing. But your love is not a medicine, because deep down, she already believes that no one can be trusted, that every person sooner or later leaves, so she sabotages it, provokes, accuses, until you leave. And when this happens, she confirms her own belief. See, everyone's leaving. And the cycle begins again. The wounded woman who wanted love now feels anger. You'll say that people are fragile. Go vent to your friends. We'll share messages about strength. But deep down, you're running away from what you feel, because the woman who says she deserves a great love isn't just talking about romance. You're talking about an emotional debt, and he expects you to pay with patience, attention, effort, and endurance, all to try to fix something she can't even understand anymore. Freud would call this the return of the repressed, the unprocessed pain that returns disguised as a demand. When she says she wants someone who can handle it, she's actually saying, "I'm tired of facing everything alone." She wants you to love what she herself left behind. Marisi, you see how beautiful the scar it hides is. May she heal with gestures what she wounded with words. Love, in this case, became a process of emotional repair. At first, you think it's beautiful. He is moved by her story. Believe you can help. But this is the beginning of your tiredness. You try to be different from others. It shows that you are mature, present, true, but you soon realize it's never enough. There's always something missing. She always wants more. She says that the others were negligent, that they didn't appreciate it, and you strive to be the opposite. But little by little, he realizes that he is being charged for past mistakes. You become the test of a goodness she no longer believes in. Freud would call this negative transference, unresolved feelings from the past being projected onto a new person. She doesn't even realize it, but she expects you to disappoint her too, and it will provoke until that happens. And when you fail, because you will, she will say, "I knew it. It was just another one." She wants to be right, because holding on to hope hurts more than accepting disappointment. A woman in her 30s often isn't looking for love. She's looking for redemption. But love does not heal. Love reveals. And when she is truly loved, what appears can be difficult for the ego. The reminder that she made mistakes too, that ran away, that hurt. She says she is strong, but she expects you to put up with her weaknesses. She says she is cured, but wants to be treated as if she was still vulnerable. And you, man, end up no longer being a partner, become a therapist, become a father, become a guardian, anything but someone with space to experience real feelings. You were not called to love. He was summoned to compensate, but this account never adds up, because love demands surrender from both sides, and deep down, she has already decided that she will not give herself up again. She just wants you to stay while she deals with her pain. She says she wants something serious, but she creates barriers from the start. Test, snake, provoke, observe. While you think you are building a relationship, she just checks if you can handle her intensity without giving up. Freud would call this the death drive, the unconscious tendency to repeat the trauma, to return to the pain, because the pain is familiar. Love, not always. Genuine affection challenges the defense system she has painstakingly built. Therefore, the more you love her, the more she may react with distance, irony, or coldness. Love dismantles the armor, and without that protection, she feels like she could fall apart. She doesn't know how to receive love anymore. He only knows how to demand. He wants you to prove all the time that you deserve to be there. But she never explains how, because she doesn't even know for sure, only recognizes when something causes pain. It demands fidelity, but does not offer emotional exclusivity. She claims to be mature, but acts like she's still learning. He says he wants peace, but ends up sabotaging harmony. She claims to be empathetic, but reacts with distance when confronted. You walk in believing you've found a safe woman. He comes away realizing that behind the facade is an emotionally needy child. a girl who learned to use the image of maturity to hide her need for control and need for need. And the hardest part is that not even she realizes it. You say difficult, as if it were a charm. He prides himself on scaring men, as if it were a quality. But deep down, she lives isolated within the protection built by pain. You can't reach that space, and if it does reach it, it cannot remain. Because her emotional world is full of traps. Your every gesture is seen as a threat, every caress like an attempt to control, every silence like abandonment. Freud would explain this as a conflict between the ego ideal and the ego ideal. She doesn't accept who she has become, and therefore demands that you treat her as who she would like to be. But the distance between the image and reality destroys any possibility of true love. In the end, you walk away, not for lack of feeling, but for wear and tear. And she confirms her own belief. Nobody can stand a woman like that, and walks away believing it, without realizing that love did not end for lack of courage. It ended due to exhaustion. The 30-something woman you meet today doesn't want to love anymore. He just wants to not suffer, but expects you to love for her. May he endure for her. May she carry the emotional weight she left behind. Freud would call this structural repression. The pain remains buried in the unconscious but never disappears. It only manifests itself in gestures. She smiles on the outside as if she has no relationship with her own grief, and you, man, find yourself in love with an idea. For the woman she says she is, not for the woman she really is, because what she really is, she hides behind the makeup of the constructed self-esteem. From the discourse of empowerment, she says she wants reciprocity, but she no longer knows how to give it. If you offer too much, she becomes suspicious. If you offer too little, you complain. It's a no-win game. You are not being loved. It is being evaluated, examined in silence. And when she judges you as insufficient, it's not because you made a mistake. It's because you didn't live up to the script she created herself, based on what you idealized, dreamed, or saw on social media. She wants the love of subtitles, not the love of the real world. And if you are truly human, will end up disappointing, because her love is idealized, flawless, limitless, mirrorless. But you are a mirror, and she doesn't accept that, because every time you show humanity, she remembers that she is human too, and that she does not forgive. Her ego can't stand seeing herself vulnerable. In the end, you don't leave out of weakness. Go away for lucidity, because she understood that the love she demands is over, and she was the one who let it die. He died the moment he decided never to give himself up again, and just charge others for delivery. Freud knew that love is not a fairy tale. Did you know that those who have been hurt deeply transform others into penance? But you, man, were not made to bear anyone's suffering. You were made to love as equals. This channel is not about superficial messages or ready-made phrases. Here we don't wipe the slate clean, we use a scalpel. It's a cut to the soul, a shock to the ego, a finger in the wound. If you still live in illusion, it will hurt. But if you want lucidity, welcome to the shock. This is for those who are tired of repeating traumas and want to see the truth. A channel for the few, for the strong, for those who don't shy away from the mirror.